Good morning, everyone. A good tavach. Shavua Tov. We are continuing here in the words of the Horowitz in the Sefer HaMitzvos HaKotzar, New Mitzvah Mem Hey 45. Mitzvahs Aseh, a positive commandment. Lisa Ishes Achiv Shemeis B'loi Banim. If a woman's husband died, leaving her without any children, so then if this man had a brother, and the brother is available for marriage, he has a mitzvah to marry the almana, the widow of his brother. And it's called the mitzvah of Yibum, where a man marries his brother's widow, and they try to have children, a son that will be called in the name of the deceased husband, in order to let his memory live on. Shenemar, where do we see this? It says in the Torah, Ki yeshvu achim yachtav, when brothers dwell together, umeis achad mehem, and one of them dies, and he leaves over a wife, a widow, who doesn't have any children, yavama yavai aleha, so the yavama, which means the husband's brother, will come upon her, ulekacha leisha, and he'll take her as a wife. He will marry her. And this was a beautiful mitzvah that the Torah speaks about in order to keep the continuity of this man, of his life, of his legacy, to keep it alive. However, ubizmanenu, in our time, says the Horowitz, she'ena mechavnin l'shem mitzvah, since that when a man, a brother that takes his brother's wife as a wife to himself, is not mechavin, he doesn't have the pure intention of doing the mitzvah. There's a lot of other lusty taivas and desires that are in the way. Perhaps she is beautiful, perhaps he is a person that just wants to lie carnally with this woman, and therefore he doesn't have the greatest intentions, lahakim shem la'achiv hames. He doesn't really have in mind that he should establish the name for his deceased brother here, and have a child that's going to be called in his name and be the living legacy of the brother who passed away. So therefore, ein din yibum noyek. Therefore, bisman hazeh, in our times, we actually do not perform the mitzvah of yibum because people will not do it appropriately. Rak chalitzah, rather we do the mitzvah of chalitzah, ukilakaman, like we're going to see shortly. So says the Horowitz very clearly, we're not in a generation that can handle this mitzvah on the levels of spirituality that it's supposed to be done. So instead of that, we do the next mitzvah, mitzvah Memva 46. Mitzvahs aseh shetechalitz hayavam na'ala yavam im eino reitz liyadma. It's a positive commandment that the yavama, who is the woman that is childless, she should remove the shoe of the yavam, which is the husband's brother, and if he does not want to take her in to this marriage. Meaning, if you're not going to do yibum, which the Horowitz says we don't do anymore, there's a different mitzvah called chalitzah, which is a shoe that the yavam is wearing, and the woman, the yavama, takes the shoe off. There's a spitting that takes place, a whole procession and ceremony that goes on over there, and that will be the way that she absolves herself, or they absolve themselves from getting married. Shenemar, like it says, if the brother remaining doesn't want to take the widowed wife as a yivimto, as a wife, v'cholza na'ala me'al ragloi. So what happens over there? She shall remove the shoe from his foot and do everything else that it says in the pasuk over there. You can only do this mitzvah if you have rabbanim, you have scholars that are experts in the field. There's a lot of details, and it must be done appropriately. It's not a mitzvah which is done very often, so you really have to find someone who knows the halachas, knows the laws properly. And therefore, anyone who has a yavama that's falling to him, that is, he's supposed to marry, and he doesn't do chalitza, and he leaves her alone, he doesn't marry and he doesn't do chalitza, bittul mitzvahs asezu, he just nullified this positive commandment. V'yesh anashim shenimnoim lachlatz livim tahim. There are those men who say, no, I'm not going to do chalitza, I won't do this shoe procedure and procession over here. B'yom, they say, sheilahem sakana yidei. They say there's going to be some kind of danger that's going to happen to them. I don't know, they're frightened, they have heebie-jeebies, something like that. But who told us, there's a very great mistake that they are making over here. V'yisharm darach Hashem, the ways of HaKadosh Baruch Hu are straight. V'layunu lahem kol oven, im yekaymu mitzvah, nothing bad will happen to them if they are fulfilling the mitzvah. What are they afraid of? Their toes are going to fall off. They're afraid of that they're going to lose you. They want to have shoes for the rest of their life. What are they afraid of? Says the Chavetz Chaim, the ways of Hashem are pure and just and straight. When you follow HaKadosh Baruch Hu's pathways, everything works out. You're Mekayim, you fulfill the mitzvah. However, the opposite is true. If you do not want to fulfill the positive commandment of Chalitza, this sin is very great. And this mitzvah applies in every place at all times. A person who has the mitzvah of Yibum, in our generation they don't do Yibum, rather they do the mitzvah of Chalitza, and it's a mitzvah to do, not to be afraid of, even though it seems to be an unusual type of service that takes place, but the Torah says to do, and therefore you have nothing to worry about. Fulfill the words of Hashem, no bad will happen to you, and you'll be a blessed person in your life. Have a wonderful day.